There weren't a lot of.
Okay, we'll call this policy and governance meeting to order. All three districts are present. Notice of the meeting was properly posted on November 17th, 2025. Item number 1, approval of the minutes of October 14th. Is there a motion?
So move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Item number 2, dates and times of the 2026 regularly scheduled meetings for policy and governance. Were there any objections to what was on the attachment?
And so move.
No objections.
No
I will
objections?
second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Item number 3, discussion possible action regarding ARPA Violence Intervention Program. Ms. Hannah.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Was this attached? Okay, motion to receive document?
Second.
All those in favor?
Yeah, it was attached. It was attached.
Was attached.
I withdraw my motion.
And second.
Okay.
Never mind. It was not attached. Yeah. Please receive it. I will make a motion to receive the document.
Is there a second?
And second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so this is our crime violence intervention program. We had our previous program that we had to suspend, and so then we went in-house with it, and we purchased a program. And I told you last time that I came, which was about 4 months ago, that we wanted to get the program in and see what we needed before I came back and said, hey, this is all the money that I need. So we've identified what we need to conduct the program, and that's what you have in front of you. I have roughly $110,000 left in this ARPA fund. I have put it through Accenture. They said these purchases are covered. I know that we're still working with them, I think, on the full compliance just to make sure, but I have all the quotes in. Purchasing's been working on that. I just wanted to get your approval to move forward in this way, since I told you that's what I do before we spend any more money. We want to buy laptops, charging stations, safety-sensitive furniture to conduct the program in the units, and then the tablets and cases. So,
Describe safety-sensitive furniture.
Bruce, can you give specifics on the furniture?
Yeah, it's more geared towards juvenile setting for rehabilitation. Is just a softer material where you can kind of move it within the units to be able to facilitate the program that we purchased.
Right now we have those hard tables that are bolted to the ground. You can't move them. There can only be, I think, 8 maybe at each table, which makes it really difficult if we're going to have a program or something like that with the entire group. Kids' backs are to each other at the tables, which of course they're uncomfortable with. makes it really difficult. So if we're gonna have it be a totally inclusive group, because our largest unit goes up to 15 kids, we need to have furniture that we're able to move around in a fashion where they're able to do the group together. Right now, we're having to take them out of the unit to go to the library or to dine into to a multi-purpose room where we're able to do that. And obviously, with 7 units, if we're gonna apply this program across the board, we can't do that all at the same time.
Just to add to that, with the purchase of the tablets, we'll have to also kind of monitor that to make sure the kids are not, having access to certain browser searches, and we're able to just kind of facilitate that to where staff can also monitor the tablets.
And we're used to that right now with our smart TVs and the video game systems that they have. The kids are very adept at figuring out how to get through a firewall. I think Bruce has gone to PlayStation school for about the last 6 months to lock everything down. And the second they do something, he gets an alert on his phone and calls up and says,
That's
"Hey,
crazy.
whoever's in this unit is trying to do something on the PlayStation." So
That's good.
we've kind of worked all the hacks out. We're going to work with IT as well to make sure that the tablets are completely secure. But we're excited about the prospect of it and to be able to actually do the program with the kids on the unit.
Hannah, remind me, the allotment from ARPA, was that an
Yes.
even 100,000?
It was 186.5.
186.5.
We spent 72,000 with the previous provider, which left us 114 and change, and then we spent 3,500 on the program. So we got about 110 and change left by my calculations.
Okay.
All right, any questions? All right,
No.
thanks, Hannah. Is there a motion here?
Move the item.
I will second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Hannah. Okay, number 4, selection of November 2025 BOCC Employee of the Month. Karen.
Motion to receive document.
And second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you, Karen.
Good morning. We only had one nomination for the month of November, Employee of the Month, and you have a copy of it.
I will make a motion to accept the nomination for Employee of the Month.
Thank you.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Number 5, MIS Department Quarterly Telework Exemption Request. Dave.
Is it that time again?
It is quarterly.
It goes by so quickly.
It does.
This was very well written, by the way.
It's exactly the same as last time.
Exactly.
Just change the name.
I move the item.
I do have one question.
Sure.
As far as your insufficient office space now,
Yes.
and not saying that anything should change or
Right.
how much additional space do you think MIS would need if we did
Build
bring
something.
everybody back in?
Well, if you're going to do it right, I would want the applications team to be somewhat separate from the operations team. That group needs quiet. They need a peace and quiet, so they need offices, actual office space. We need a conference room. We don't have that.
Okay.
We gave that up with that space that's now we're occupied by, well, now I guess now it's a judge in the treasurer's office. So, so you're looking at, I don't know if I can give you a square footage, Paul. On
Well,
what
give
we
me
would
give
need.
me a ballpark.
We ballpark say 7 or 8 offices. It's probably a good number. I mean, our operations team can operate out of what we currently have. We've done it. We're not.
So you would need ideally 7 or 8 offices, conference room. Do you need like a bullpen area?
That'd be nice. Sure. Yeah. Something's. I think it's fair to say we would want something similar to what we had when we had that second, the secondary space, because that was the applications end in the admin hall. That's where the director sat, ops manager, apps manager.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. Okay, item 6, status report of Oklahoma County's ARPA funding allocation. Jessica.
So Danny should be available.
Oh, okay.
Danny.
There she is.
Hey, Danny.
Hi, good morning, everybody. How's it going?
Very well.
Glad to hear it. I wanted to touch before we get into our presentation for today on the JJC CBI project quickly. As was noted, Hannah mentioned that there was a couple of compliance packets that are in the works. These are approved and are apparently not sending out of my email into the county email. I believe the files are too large. So I'm going to have to drop them in the county's team folder so that there can be access to that. So that was holding up that approval, but there's no constraints or concerns on our side, and wanted to let you know they are completed, just got lost in the ether. And also on top of that, with the anti-harm furniture, we have done a review of why we would believe that is within scope and how it aligns with the American Correctional Association mandates that are required within juvenile justice facilities, and how this really does go hand in hand with having an effective CBI program so that the students are comfortable and that they are able to really be present in the moment without anybody in the room having to worry about additional harm or violence. So the email that I approved with the compliance packets also included some detailed information on that Jessica had asked for. And so I know she'll be forwarding it to you once we are able to get it all the way across that email finish line for whatever reason. But otherwise, I wanted to talk quickly today a little bit about document preparation and cleanup. I know that Iron Mountain will be coming on after me to talk about record retention, so this is not related to that. This is more specifically talking about what our plans are moving forward with the ARPA files and kind of the sprints that we want to look at to get things moving and what our touch points will look and there's an easy way to access them for anybody that is looking for them. I do have a PowerPoint that I could screen share. It did not make it over to Sharon, and so I would need you guys to receive in order for me to screen share, and then of course I will email it over to her. But if we're not able to do that, I'm happy to just talk through it as well.
Is there a motion to receive?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to receive the presentation.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Wonderful. Let me go ahead and pull that up. It is trying to load. There we go. Are you able to see the slides?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, great. So as I mentioned, this is just a general kind of talking about what the ARPA document cleanup workstream looks like. The real objective of this is just that ongoing document management. We have gone through a couple of different filing conventions. Originally, all of the documents were held on the Accenture side. Of course, that creates issue with making sure that the county has access at any point in time. And so we started using a WinSCP shared drive. And then once the county transitioned over to using Teams as a main avenue of communications, we have begun the process of moving files over into Teams. And so really just the goal of this, making sure everything is organized, that it's standard, everybody knows where to find everything, and that it does adhere to the retention policies that come along following Iron Mountain, and then just talking about kind of what our implementation of this will look like going forward. So this is just a really quick agenda talking about kind of that initial assessment and planning, what the active cleanup process of these files look like, things that we are considering considerations that could slow down the process, and general next steps. So for our assessment and planning, this is something we will work closely with Jessica on, and of course any of your offices that would like to be further involved on getting certain approvals in order for us to make sure that the files are in the correct structure that the county would like to see them in. So the initial goal with our document inventory creation is, developing a comprehensive inventory of the project files and their locations. And this just helps to improve that organizational efficiency. And so we'll want to get approval on the file structure that we're using. And also we will be examining each of the project directories to confirm all projects have made it into the team site, aren't included with the appropriate documentation. We're also thinking through the setting standards and responsibilities. So this is thinking about what are our naming conventions going to look like and folder structure is going to look like. We do have a good folder structure already running, and I will walk you guys through that in a moment. But this will also be our opportunity to obtain approvals on, are there any standard naming conventions that we want to use moving forward? And then also this will allow myself and Jessica to talk about, and you all of course, to talk about the ongoing users of these roles and who should have access and who needs to be moving things when. And then also the cleanup of the criteria. So we do have a lot of files in the team site right now, but working through the next steps of let's moving things into archives. There's a lot of working product in there. So as the subrecipient agreements go through their iterations in order to be prepared for BOCC, moving all of those older files, of course, still in the folders themselves, but archiving those and leaving only the most relevant at the top of the folder for quick access. So those are things that we wanted to call out as action items and next steps that we think will be really important, and especially defining our priorities. So as we're going through these file structures, of course, we are going to touch on every single folder. There's no doubt that every project will get its time to shine, but also just making sure that we are all aligned with what our preferred starting point is and creating those ongoing sprints of review for these folders. So right now we're looking at starting with the FY24 folders because that is going to be the most relevant and the items that people are going to be looking for in upcoming audit conversations. So that would be our recommended work stream forward, is starting specifically with that subset time frame, but of course we'll get that ongoing approval as we move forward. And then just wanted to let everybody know what that active cleanup process looks like. So this doesn't have any, action items necessary from you all, but just letting you know what we're going to be looking at here. And that is making sure, like I said, we've duplicated any multiple files. We've archived anything that isn't immediately relevant to the compliance packet. We are going to update those naming conventions. We do have a checklist that we've created, and this is what I'll go over with you in a moment, that we will make sure each of these folders has the items within them, and then that review and validation. So of course, that's something we will do on our side with each project, but then we will loop in your teams and Jessica or Tracy or whomever to do random samplings as well, so that everybody can feel confident that the files are where they need to be. And so you're seeing in that top right corner just kind of what that sprint might look like. That is just an example pulled from another project. It's not related specifically to this one, but as we are moving forward with this cleanup, these are the types of reports that we will be bringing with our cleanup process and sharing with each of you on a weekly or bi-weekly basis, so that you know how quickly projects are being cleaned up and folders are being organized. So per project, we will be looking at each of these items when it comes to their folders for compliance. So you have the overarching project itself. Within that project, there is going to be the 6 main folders. So this is your project details, the procurement documents, reporting and monitoring, closeout forms, email communications, and then our catch-all in case there's some things that still need to be filed. So within each of those first 4, there are pieces that drop down, and this will vary depending upon project. They are not all created equal. So for project details, all of our projects here are typically going to have your application, the approval of them being a likely eligible ARPA project, what their subrecipient determination was, their risk assessment, the subrecipient agreements, any addendums to those agreements, and then the written justification. So again, here, not everybody will have a written justification. That is just for the projects that are over $1 million. So again, you'll see that the project folders will end up looking a little bit different per project. And same going into the procurement piece. If there are multiple purchases, which you'll see in some of your projects like the radio project, we'll have multiple folders that will say, purchase 1, purchase 2, and that will break down the compliance checklist for each of those and how we were able to determine that the federal forms were completed. We have the SAM.gov information and things like that. And then, of course, our general monitoring information, the details we collect during our site visits. This includes things like pictures. This includes understanding their policies, quarterly reporting, KPIs. All of those things will continue And you'll see in the bottom right-hand corner of that screen, kind of an example of what the checklist might look like. I realize it's very hard to see there, but giving you an idea of, hey, we will be quite literally checking each one of these boxes, or if it's not applicable, making that note as well. This next slide is just going a little bit further into detail, and I won't bore you all with it, but again, on what each of those documents might look like within these folders. So the procurement piece in particular, you see there's a long list there, and this is one of the most important pieces that will be differentiated between many of your subrecipients and your county projects, because it's going to depend on their purchase thresholds. So you're going to see different documentation, whether it was for a micro purchase, if it was for a small purchase, if it went to that formal bid and RFQ process. And so those documents will vary by project, and just want to make sure everybody is aware of that. But we will be checking each of those. And then just so that everybody feels comfortable, we do want to have quick considerations. We will be keeping a risk log as we work through this and as we're updating you as we're going through these projects and making sure everything is completed. We do want to call out that there are potentials for capacity constraints as we're moving forward, just as we're getting into the holidays, or if there are ad hoc requests that come from departments, or if we are able to do reallocations of award funds at some point in the next few months as well. So just things to be aware of, not saying that these are anything that's going to slow us down right now, but wanted to call them out on the forefront. And we will keep this risk log. Jessica and I have a meeting every Wednesday moving forward. And so we will be able to go through this if there is something that is delaying the process for any reason. Our next step's pretty straightforward. We're going to confirm everybody is comfortable with these naming conventions, that everybody is comfortable with what this kind of general concept of sprinting looks like. And running these initial pilot projects on the FY24 items, so that we can all feel really positive as we continue executing these phases. And I know I ran through that really, really fast, and we'll definitely get into more detail on that in the coming weeks as you guys are able to actually see the reports we are providing. But wanted to just give everybody a quick overview, since I know this was something that came up in discussion with some offices on Friday, and wanted to make sure we called out that we are dedicated to making sure all of this is organized and understand the importance of getting these files all pretty.
Okay, thanks, Danielle.
Absolutely. Does anybody have any questions?
Nope, doesn't appear
Okay.
so. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Motion to receive report?
A second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, item 7, Oklahoma County retention policy and retention schedule. Jessica, is anybody from Iron Mountain joining us?
And I will go ahead and make a motion to receive the amended document.
And second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good morning, everyone. Chris Whitaker from Iron Mountain. Thanks again for the opportunity to have this discussion regarding the policy. Just wanted to first check and see if everyone can see my screen. I'm sharing the, or at least I know some of you have the a paper version, but I'm sharing my screen to start to talk through this current version of the policy. So let me start to review that. Jessica, I guess I wanted to defer to you, see if there were any opening comments you have before I get started.
Not at this time. Just thank you for joining us today.
Yep. All right, great. All right, so starting to roll through the policy, again, in sort of a similar fashion as to what we did during the during our last meeting. I'll read through some of the areas. Some of these were not amended based on the last discussion, but of course want to review those nonetheless. And of course, if there's any questions or anything that come up, please feel free to jump in. So as we go through or begin the policy, Section 1, the purpose, scope, and target audience of the policy. Section 1.1, the purpose. In keeping with Oklahoma County's ultimate goal of becoming a high-performance organization, the purpose of this document is to establish a policy to ensure satisfaction of legal and regulatory records requirements and business accountability within the context of managing business risks. The records management policy will not only establish defensible and accountable corporate record-keeping practices, but will also reduce storage costs and create more efficient methods in the maintenance and disposal of records.
Chris, can I interrupt you for just a second?
Yes.
Rather than going through this word by word, can you highlight any of all the changes that were made or requests that were made on behalf of the different districts?
Sure. Okay, let me grab. All right, let me grab the version. Okay, let's see. All right.
Chris, I believe the first page is page number 5, which is number 3, roles and responsibilities.
I am. I just pulled up a previous version so I can sort of map back to where we made revisions. So let me grab that. Okay. Okay, so to pick up sort of and just to really target where we made changes. So in this section, there were a couple of changes made around within the scope and the target audience. So at the bottom here on 1.3, we changed this to read in lieu of encompasses all Oklahoma County businesses. We changed that to read encompasses all BOCC departments and elected officials. Again, so to sort of change the scope and make it a little bit more relevant there. In section 2, under 2.1 records, we in the first paragraph, we the same thing here. We made a change from Oklahoma County Business Unit to BOCC, to Oklahoma County BOCC Department or elected officials' offices in terms of the scope. And let's scroll down some more. Under roles and responsibilities, here under 3.1, we made a change from what was initially the Policy and Governance Committee, was changed to the Oklahoma County Information Technology Council. The first paragraph and the second paragraph both reflect this change as well. Again, so we've, in terms of where the roles and responsibilities lie, and then under, let's see.
Hey, Chris, may I pause you right there? So
Yep.
The Oklahoma County Information Technology Council would be what we discussed at the last meeting, creating this council so that they oversee the training, implementation, the overview, all the roles and responsibilities of managing the program, change control processes. And so you have a subsequent agenda item that follows this agenda item to actually approve a resolution to create this council. But we wanted to pause here just to see if you have any questions. Dane is here in order to talk through what that would look like. It would be comprised of a representation from each elected official's office, and then the MIS director would serve as an ex officiato member, kind of like BET, where Cody serves and leads that discussion. And then it also allows each office to be part of the council that would oversee this policy. as well as other policies that need to be created for technology, but then also could review our Tyler Munis contracts, other things, change control processes that need to be refined. And so unless you have any other questions here, we also will discuss that in another agenda item.
Sounds great. Thank you.
All right, great. Okay, so in section 3.3 around management information systems, MIS, there were a couple of changes here. Really, the main changes were to reflect the removal of the initial version mentioned in the original Policy and Governance Committee. This now reads that the MIS teams will coordinate with the Oklahoma County Information Technology Council, just mentioned. So that was all sort of changed within this section in terms of whom MIS will work with around the policy and the management of information and records. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Scrolling down to part 5, records. Let's see. Maintenance and use of schedule. There was a request to change language around around retention changes for anything greater than the minimum retention requirement would be, in essence, an automatic approval for elected officials and directors, especially for any record-keeping requirements that are more from a business or operational perspective. So really here, the main discussion was we had come back with a set of recommendations for retention periods. There were some comments around just understanding. Yep, we understand what the statute says, but in the case where we may need to keep the records a little bit longer, the directors and elected officials wanted to have the ability to keep the records longer, again without sort of approval from any sort of governing body. So we added language here to reflect that. I know in a recent, in fact, version which I have here, and Jessica, you had asked me to mention this as a discussion point. Although we added language to allow the elected officials or directors to extend the retention requirement, in the previous discussion, there is also language which reads that all amendments or variations of the policy must be approved by the Policy and Governance Committee.
Yes, I see Cody's comment that he made to that is that even really necessary if we are allowing the option to keep longer than the minimum requirement, and I don't disagree with that. So are we willing to just omit that line, all amendments or variations that's highlighted being approved by Policy and Governance? Okay, I'll make a motion to omit that line that's highlighted.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. All right, let me make a quick note here just to add a comment. Oops. All right, so so we'll strike that language based on what was just mentioned there. So, okay. All right, let's see. A couple of other small changes, again, more around assigning this to different individuals. In this, in the 2 paragraphs here at the bottom, originally it stated Oklahoma County's legal risk and tax departments are the only offices with the authority to issue or release a legal hold. That was changed to district attorney and treasurer offices, both, again, in this paragraph and this paragraph here. Those were really the other couple of changes within this section. Again, that's in of course, the version you have there. So, but just wanted to mention that. And then, yep, in fact, throughout that whole section, again, we now reference Oklahoma County's district attorney and treasurer offices with that responsibility. All right. let's see. Okay. And then going down to the section 5.2.5, records disposal. We added language here as a request around destruction methods. So listing that here in this section under approved destruction methods, records containing confidential information as well as non-public personal information of employees and customers must be destroyed in a manner that renders them inaccessible and readable. So really the goal here was to add some specific language around how records should be disposed of across the board. Understanding, of course, there may be groups within the county that may require something a little different. The goal here was to at least add a baseline of information around how records and information should be disposed of. So,
I have a question for the board here. Do we utilize a certified secure shredding vendor now? And if so, who is that?
I'm not aware of one, although I haven't looked to see if there's certain vendors available on state contract that can provide those services.
Okay. And then that vendor, from what I'm getting from this, that vendor would have to provide the certificate of final disposition.
Right.
We do use Meadows as a vendor, but we would need to learn if they're certified to handle records retention. And then each, such as the court services documents, depending on what it is, they have to be shred on site. And so the council could talk through that, or it would just be up to the discretion of each elected office to make sure that they know their disposal requirements.
Okay. All right. Go ahead, Chris.
Hey, Paul,
Sorry.
wait, I
hold
want to go
on.
back to just a second.
Yes.
I'm still mulling over the 5.2.1. Can somebody, if the purpose of a policy is to create a standardized method in which we're destroying our records, why would we create exceptions? And will those exceptions then be handled for like cases in a similar fashion? In other words, I need to hold this record longer, and then you have a similarly situated record. Will that fall under those same type of rules? Why? It seems like we're creating an exception to a policy that we're working to get. And so enlighten me, Cody.
Well, I think there's going to be business needs that only an elected official will understand in their particular area, that they may prefer to hold a particular document longer than the statutory requirement. This document is going to get the vast majority of documents that are able to be taken care of, but this would allow flexibility for elected officials to make a decision to go beyond the statutory requirement in certain instances. The exception would also potentially change from elected official to elected official. You know, one elected official in a particular role, if somebody else is elected to that same role later, they may have a different opinion on that. So they can make those adjustments internally. I mean, that's them running their office that they were elected to run. But this is making sure that they can get rid of documents in a statutory, in a statutorily approved manner, which we can't right now because we don't have a policy. But it gives flexibility to hold documents if for particular reasons that may be unique to that particular office may need to be held longer than what the statutory requirement is.
But would this be an on-the-fly decision by an elected official, or is that something that they would need to establish now and make an addendum to the policy?
Well, and that was kind of my question related to this. It wasn't necessarily you can't do this. My question was the way this was worded, it's allowing for the exception, but I wanted to make sure that I was clear that if we were doing an exception, that we had to bring that exception to you guys, kind of like the BET watch list. We add it to the watch list no matter what, right? But it's got to be brought to us. It's not just somebody calling me or Cassie and saying, hey, put this on the watch list, and then it just miraculously shows up. You have to come into the meeting and ask for it to be on there. That's the way this reads to me, is if we wanted to hold a document in the sheriff's office for 7 years and the statutory requirement is 5 years, we would have to come here and get an automatic blessing to that. That's the way that reads to me, is that that would be the process. And if that's what you guys want to do, that's fine. I just didn't know if you guys wanted to be bogged down with every time somebody wanted to go beyond the statutory requirement that they have to come here to get that automatic approval. Does that make sense? Okay.
I understand, Cody, but I think we're creating a problem for ourselves, right?
Well, the problem is there because
you decide you want to keep a record, okay?
Not me, the elected official.
You understand what I'm saying?
I do, but
District 1 decides we want to keep a record. A new District 1 commissioner comes into office. They decide they're not going to keep similar type records. There becomes an issue, which we all know issues can arise. Well, how come they did it and you didn't? Well, the fallback is because we were only statutorily mandated. I don't want to, it appears that we're putting a hole into a policy that we've worked for a long time to try to get by allowing exceptions without trying to better define what those are, other than.
I think, and I see completely what you're saying, and I don't disagree with it. In a perfect world, well, I shouldn't say in a perfect world, in another world, but in the world that we live in, where we have 8 distinct CEOs of their own organization, I think
We have one body politic.
we do,
And-
but we have 8 individually elected officials that are duly elected to run the specific functions of their office in the manner to which they see fit. And as long as they are complying with the minimum statutory
standards,
requirement, I think if they want to go above and beyond,
Right.
they should have that autonomy to make that decision. I don't think this board or BOCC wants to get into meddling on the specifics of what an elected official
I
wants
wouldn't
to
call
do.
it meddling. I would put it as trying to make sure there's some standardization so that we don't get caught with, well, why did you keep this one but not this one, right? Some
Well,
kind
as
of,
long
is there
as-
going to be some kind of,
But
Just a
the
minute,
answer
Randy.
the answer to that
is there
is
going to be
because,
some kind of documentation held by each individual office as to why they kept this record but not that one when they're similarly situated?
well, Joe, I mean, it's up to you guys. Mine was more of a question to make sure that everybody out there understood what the requirement was going to be. To your point, though, in that situation, I think you guys could say if there is a deviation to hold a document longer than the statutory requirement, that an elected official shall have the authority to do such, but that elected official shall keep a record in their office designating what those documents are and what the additional time frame is. If that's what you guys want to do, I mean, that's
That sounds
perfectly fine.
Yeah, that sounds good to me, because then there's a record of why that decision was made. Right now, the way I read this, there wouldn't be any justification for why that record was held,
Right. But
other than
if there is the document, somebody can still make the argument, well, why did you hold this one and this other document is similarly situated and you didn't hold it? The true answer to that is because that's what I thought we needed to do, and the
Well-
statutory requirement was met. So that was just my decision. Not me specifically, but that elected official. So I don't really necessarily think they have to, explain themselves on that. But I understand what you're saying. There is a hole there, but we have holes all over the place because of the unique nature in which we exist, having 8 different elected officials operating together but independently. So I just trying to see that we have as much cohesion as possible and a document. To your point, we've talked about this for a very long time, and this is extremely important. And I get where you're coming from, but my whole thing on this was making sure that everybody was clear, if this document passed, that we could hold things longer, but I want to make sure that your intent was that we still had to come to this group to get that automatic approval. To me, the way I read this document, if it passed moving forward, an elected official's office, for instance, in the sheriff's office, if we wanted to hold the document for 7 years instead of the statutory requirement of 5 years, we couldn't just say, that's what we're going to do. We need to know that we have a process that we have to follow according to the way the document is currently written, which is to come to this group and say, hey, we've got this document, statutory requirement is 5 years, we want to hold it for 7 years. Are you going to give us the automatic approval? And then you give us the automatic approval, and then we can begin doing that. I just want to make sure that we're all clear on what the expectation is and what the policy is to start out with.
That's exactly how I read it as well.
Okay, and I just don't know that you guys, and that's why whenever I weighed in last time on the council, looking at, the auditing and doing all that kind of stuff, I don't know from being in my past life where you guys are right now, I wouldn't have had the time to be able to do that and weigh in on all of that. And this is kind of that same thing, coming forward on automatic approvals. Is that something that you guys want to take time to do? Or each office could just have, like you mentioned, an internal document that stipulates what the, if they have any deviations above and beyond the statutory requirement to any of their documents, there's something held in their office that says what that requirement is. And it's not a bad idea anyway, because when you do have a changeover from elected official to elected official, the new elected official coming in can look at that document and say, okay, I know this organization is meeting the statutory requirement for records retention because all of that was determined before what those requirements are. These are the ones that are going above and beyond. Do I want to make a change to those and make those just align with the statutory requirement, or do I want to make some adjustments? They would have a document there to look at. So when you have changeover, a document like that would help. Now, whether you want an office to just make an independent determination whether they want to do that or whether you want to require that in your policy, that's up to you guys.
What's the desire of the board here?
Me personally, I feel like if the minimum statutory requirement is met, beyond that, it's to the discretion of the elected official, and we use that discretion in many things in our policies and procedures. I have no problem with just, bearing down on the very basics, the statutory requirements, and beyond that, just let each department do what they feel is necessary.
Then why couldn't the policy be as simple as elected officials have the ability to dispose of records as per allowed in the statute, and oh, by the way, they can create an exception?
As long as that exception meets the minimum requirement.
Right.
I mean, right.
Exactly.
I mean, we're spending money to produce this, but it seems like.
Well, how about this for this particular instance? Let me offer this suggestion. If you keep the highlighted, I think I actually had highlighted 4 or 5 lines there, but the 2 that you see that are highlighted, the 2 lines, all amendments or variations must be approved by the Policy and Governance Committee. If you do away with that next one that talks about it being automatic, if you just do away with that, but that highlighted sentence, you say all amendments or variations, comma, except those that an elected official determined to keep for a longer period than the statutory requirement, comma, because then it's clear that if somebody's wanting to make an amendment to this, you can't just arbitrarily make amendments to the records retention policy. It's set, except if an elected official is wanting to go beyond their statutory requirement and hold the document a little bit longer. So you could just add a little piece in that sentence to make it clear that there is an exception for that and only that, but then you would do away with the next verbiage where it talks about the automatic.
Jessica, is that something you and Chris can work on to at least get, it's at the discretion of the elected official, but we'd like to have it, whatever their decision is, we'd like to have it documented.
Okay, Chris, I think he's making notes. Do you have any questions regarding that, just so we can clarify here?
No, no, I don't have any questions. Just capturing some of the language here. We can talk through and finalize this.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Chris, go ahead, proceed.
All right. All right, so let's scroll down. Okay. All right, so to scroll back down to section, we talked through the approved methods of destruction. The next section we added as a change is some language regarding offsite storage. So this section here, which runs pretty much through here, and I'll just talk through the highlights of this and to talk through specifically around this, was really to start to lay out some policy sort of guidelines around the use of offsite storage. So offsite storage typically meaning with a commercial vendor of these services. Maybe it is at another Oklahoma County facility where maybe records are stored, just kind of depends. But the goal here was to at least lay a foundation or a high level sort of policy around the storage of these materials, understanding that each group, depending on their requirements, may store things a little differently. So for example, if I'm storing with vendor A and they have sort of this process, then maybe there's a slight variation here. If I'm storing with my records with vendor B and they have a process in terms of how they store their records, this might again be morphed to accommodate with that vendor. Or if I'm storing them at an Oklahoma County owned facility where records are stored, that process might be different. So again, the goal here was to add something that could be common to all the different groups, at least as a place to start. This also reads a little bit like a procedure as well, because there are some things that should be done in terms of, in the absence, I guess, of a formal procedure. Again, understanding some things that should be done in storing records, like making sure there's a good description of what's in the box. So that we're not putting, different types of records within the box, making sure everything we put within a box is the same kind of record, roughly the same age, so you can track the retention and disposal of those things. Also, the departmental ownership, again, just good basic information to be able to pull that box of records at as a later date. Again, just a few other items here and sort of packing the boxes. Again, a good best practices way to do that, again, so that there's at least a little bit of process by which that happens as well. And then we also noted here to note some differences depending on how each group is storing their records. We also listed Oklahoma County departments and or elected officials should refer to the customer handbook provided by their commercial storage vendor for vendor-specific transfer instructions. Again, assuming there could be different groups using different vendors to store their records. So again, I'll stop here. Any questions, feedback?
Oh, I think we're good.
All right, great. All right, so let's see. The next item around changes is around training. Essentially here, for the training, the responsibility here was stricken for the Policy and Governance Committee and replaced with the Information Technology Council, who will be responsible for the creation, implementation, and administration of the records management training program. So again, that was really the change that was listed here. And then also there was a line added: the Oklahoma County manager will provide the Oklahoma County records retention policy and schedule to all Board of County Commissioners and elected officials.
Okay.
All right.
Any other questions, comments? You good, Joe?
Good. All right. And then the last item, there were no changes to the records policies, procedures, and practices. So this really encompasses all of the changes and everything created to date. It sounds like we have one item or a couple of items that we'll take away to have some additional discussion on, make a revision, and I'll work with Jessica to do that. All right. Any last questions or comments or anything for me?
No, I don't think so. Thank you, Chris. So, Jessica, is this the absolute finalized version? We're going to need to bring this again to the
So-
next meeting, or?
We'll make those revisions, and then I know that Lisa and Caitlin had offered to look over it as well and make any other recommendations and suggestions. And so that's what are the next steps? Do you want to wait until December policy and governance in order to finalize the final draft, or what's the purview of the committee? Follow up with the recommendations of the DA, make those changes and move forward?
Yeah, could we just go ahead and make the proper adjustments per our meeting today? Send it on to council, see if there's any revisions, and then at that point, whenever that's ready, perhaps call a special if we need to move quicker than December P&G.
Yes, and I know the sheriff's office would like to get this accomplished as soon as possible because there are a lot of documents that needed to be transferred to storage or disposed of, so that way we can continue our Kraus construction project. And so I know they'd appreciate that.
Cody, what kind of volume of documents are we talking about for you guys? That you need taken care of as soon as possible?
Approximately 427,413 documents. I'm just kidding. A lot.
Does that work for you?
I didn't get through all of it.
Take a quick look and so we can.
Joe had sent me some suggested language. The first paragraph that you sent me, I don't. It says in consultation with the county manager.
The department director, BOCC, I assume the word department meant BOCC departments, because elected officials are ahead of every.
I would just want to
Yeah.
make sure
We
that
can
that's
clarify
clear.
that.
Yeah,
I thought that was the intent of the policy.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, I just want to make sure where we have our commas and everything, that it's clear that the consultation is not that Commissioner Mon needs to consult with the county manager to determine if they want to go above and beyond the statutory. But if it's a department head, I get that. So, yeah.
So first blush.
Yeah.
Clean that up. You think that would work for you?
First blush,
I'll
yeah.
provide it.
Okay.
We good moving forward then, Jessica?
Can you specify what specific area that was referring to so I can make sure?
The 5.2.1, I think I have some language that will address.
Okay.
I'll send it to you.
Very good, thank you. Yeah, that sounds great to me. And then you would also need not only to approve the records retention policy, but then also I would assume you would need to approve the retention schedule because they are two separate documents.
Correct.
Okay.
And both of those will be sent to legal for their
Yes,
sign off.
and then we'll call a special. Okay, thank you.
All right. Item number 8, discussion possible action regarding resolution number 2025-4449 to create the Oklahoma County Information Technology Council.
Okay, so this is the council that we have been discussing regarding the policy. This resolution would allow for us to create a council for our IT information. And so I invited Dane to come visit a little bit more about what that would look like and then answer any questions. And then we will need direction, if this is approved, as to what it would look like in regards to creating this council. Is it a BOCC council? How would we select the elected officials? More of the logistic discussion of regards to if this is approved, what would it look like? What would we need to do next? So I'm sure
Okay, so every year when we go through our audits, we always get asked the question, is there an IT steering committee or anything, any kind of committee that we are either a part of or address to go forward with any kind of technology changes at the county? And I don't mean changes in terms of small things. I mean big strategies like Is the county going to the cloud? Are we getting a new phone system? Or big things like that, where it affects all the offices and other departments like the DA, the PD's office, all the things that we maintain or support. And the answer is we don't. I mean, yeah, we've got a change control group that meets occasionally, and we'll send things to that, but that's not the same. You know, if we're installing a new switch at juvenile, nobody, in the treasurer's office really needs to weigh in on should you do that, should you not do that. They need to be aware of it in case we make a mistake and it affects, the network. But that's different than the bigger picture items that we're talking about. And so we get dinged on that every year that we don't have that. So this resolution was initially drafted, I believe, in 2013 to address this. I've changed the years and changed the county clerk's name on it because that's different too. So, and I have not edited any of the language that the original draft came with. So I don't do resolutions. It's not really my thing. I don't understand what these need to say or whatever. I can just answer questions as to why this council, I think, is needed.
I have one question.
Sure.
The way I read this would be an 8-person council.
Yes.
One from each elected official's office.
Correct.
Okay. I understand that given the fact that MIS is under BOCC, so you would
Correct.
be represented by 3 commissioners' offices.
Yes.
But when this has other technology-driven decisions to make, do you believe you should or should not be a voting member?
I don't know that I should be a voting member. I think having the representation of the BOCC is probably sufficient. I mean, that's who I answer to. So to have those 3 officers,
input on
right, they're going to take my input and say, hey, look, I think, let's just use a phone system, for instance. Let's say we wanted to go with a different phone system. It's like, here's the research we've done. Here's the choices we've made. Here's why I think, here's the choice we've made. Here's why we think this is the way to go. And then it's up to you guys and the BOCC to decide, yeah, we agree or we don't agree, or we don't want to change for whatever reason, doesn't matter. And the other offices to step in and weigh in and say, yeah, phone systems are really, that's a hard change to make, and we're not unhappy with what we have, or whatever. So
on every vote, it would need to be, in order to have passage of anything, you would need at least a 5-3.
I would think a majority, yes. Yeah.
Everybody good with that?
Nope. As Dane said, this is something that was recommended a long time ago, has continually been an issue. I think change control kind of was a way to deal with that some, but then I think change control over the years has been
spotty at best.
Spotty. And as we're continuing to at least be pointed out in our audits, I think it's something that we should address. You mentioned IT ultimately is the purview of the Board of County Commissioners. I think it's something that's needed, and it can help us to make sure that we're all on the same page.
I agree. Okay.
Yeah, whichever form you decide it takes, or whatever it needs to look like, and whether, because I mentioned this, I believe last month, whether the DA needs to be a part of it. I don't know that they do, although it affects them. The public defender, the court system, because we do some technology there that in a degree right now, since we're still connected, the jail trust a little bit. So at least until such time as we're not, if we're ever not. So depending on what happens with any new jail and who gets housed where and whatever connections there are, all that needs to be considered. Whether they need to be on the council or not, that's for you guys to decide, but they should at least be aware of what's going on because it does affect them. So.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Dane.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is there a motion to recommend this resolution to BOCC?
Yeah.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, there's no signed up citizen participation. Any board comments or new business? Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, we are adjourned.